Ooh, new property, and it looks pretty nice. Oh hey, welcome to my new channel, It's been Wendy. Welcome back to my channel. This is Wendy. The rental property market here in Munich is very hotter than the weather. So I'm currently starting to search for a next place to rent. And as I'm doing this, I thought in today's episode, I will bring you along with me to share with you the experiences along this journey. But before we do that, let me quickly send out this request because I just saw a new property out there. So I want to do it fast. Part 1 is about the search. I will share with you my tips on the sources and networks that you can leverage to increase your chance of finding a dream home. Then part 2 is about that visit. What are the preparations or documents that you can bring with you to increase your chance, let's say if you like that place, to get selected by the landlord? Part 3 is about the contract. I want to share with you tips on what you should be look out for in that rental contract or things that you can even negotiate with the landlord to make sure that it's a fair and good contract for you. Then part 4 is about the budget. Munich is an expensive city, so I want to walk you through the key numbers that you should be mindful of as you think about your budget and also the additional things that you should never forget. Part 1 is the search for a rental property here in Munich, but let's first talk about why is it so difficult. So Munich is a very desirable place for people to work and also live. In terms of working, there are major international offices, the BMW, Allianz, Microsoft, Amazon, etc. And also Munich is located not too far from all the natural recreational places. You can go to the mountain, to the Alps to hike in just 1 or 2 hours of train ride, car rides away, and you can also go to various beautiful lakes. So it's a very beautiful place to live here, and that's why the real estate is of high demand. Here are a few resources that I use. In terms of the website, I used Immobilien Scout24, 24, and that's the main platform that I use to search for real estate, either for rental or for buying. And of course, there are some other platforms that are quite good as well, such as the Immobilien Vault or Mr. Large, and there are quite a long list. But for me, given that on one platform there are already a lot of great opportunities, I tend to go with the easier approach to keep it simple, to keep my tools quite simple, and so then I can focus more on the search itself. There are other smaller niche webpage or network that you should join, and I think those are easier to get a response, such as the Facebook group. For example, I'm part of the Munich Expat group or the Munich Internationals group. Usually there are a lot of people posted subleasing information, or if they want to leave a place, they post it out. And those are the platforms that I found people are more friendly and easier to get a response. Or else, in a more traditional way, you can always flip through the newspaper and do it like the old times, going through the pages and call the listing the landlord. One of my good friends, she was able to find an amazing property that is listed directly by the landlord, and she was able to get a good deal and in the fairly quick amount of time. So never forget the beauty or the power of the traditional newspaper. Last week, I sent out 5 applications or 5 requests to make an appointment to see the apartment. And luckily, out of those 5, I was invited to see or set up an appointment with 3 of them. And here's my trick of really getting a response, because I heard from a lot of my friends they couldn't even get a response from the makler to make an appointment. The trick is that once you see a listing is out there, almost within minutes or at least within the first hour, you need to make the contact. I send out the request right away, and in Immobilien Scout 24, you can just send out the request with a few clicks. And right after I send out the message request, that's not it. I call the company right away to make sure that I emphasize my interest, to really express how sincere I am for that property, to set up the viewing. So when I had a phone call with the makler, he told me that typically within the first 4 hours of a property being listed for rent here in Munich, there will be around 80 to 100 people expressing the interest to go see the place. That's how competitive the market is. And for this property that I'm going to see today, it turns out that out of those 80 people who were able to make a request to the makler before the listing was taken off, only 20 were eventually invited to go see the place. So it's even more competitive than applying for a job. Part 2, the visit. After a long search, finally it's a day to go visit the property itself. So let me head inside, and then we will talk a little bit of my conclusion after the visit. Hey! So I just finished visiting the apartment and I really love it. So now I want to share with you a few extra preparation that I did before this visit to really increase my chance of making a great impression to the makler and potentially to the landlord. So first of all, as you can see here, I actually prepare a set of documents, and what's including here is I have a cover letter to show my intention of why do I want to rent a place here at this place and this neighborhood and at this time. And I also have the last 3 months of paycheck information, so that it shows that I have the steady income, and also the copy of my IDs. These are the basic information that you should always prepare as you are looking for rental properties. So showing that you are well prepared and you are ready to go really make you one of the preferred tenants in the eyes of the makler. Here are the things that I thought as a tenant you should fight and also try to negotiate with the landlord. Just because this is a competitive market to rent a place doesn't mean that you should give up your right and just follow everything that the landlord is requesting. For example, first thing is a moving date, because typically to get out of your previous contract you need to give 3 months of notice time, but it doesn't necessarily always match the new place's moving date, and this is something you can negotiate with the landlord to see if there's flexibility to avoid you paying 2 rents at the same time. And trust me, I have been a tenant and I have been a landlord. For a landlord, if the landlord can give up a little bit of the rent just to get a good tenant, there's a possibility for negotiation. The other thing that I would suggest you as a tenant to try to negotiate or understand better is about the fixing. So when something happened in the apartment, is it you or the landlord that is responsible to fix it? This is something, it's quite flexible, and always make sure that it should not be always a tenant's responsibility to fix everything. Either you give the labor or you give the cost, but the landlord have to be part of it and also be responsible. Spending that extra few hours to go through those details will help you in the long term. Then part 4, let's talk about the budget of renting a place here in Munich. We are talking about real estate, this topic, so you do have to be quite conscious about where your money is going to get spent. So let's break it down into 2 parts. First is the upfront cost to even sign the contract, and then second part is then the monthly cost. So in Germany, it's quite typical for you to pay a reservation or deposit fee, and that's typically around 3 months of your rent's value. So let's say if my monthly rent is 1,000, that means I need to put 3 times 1,000, so 3,000 into the deposit, and that money is kept by the landlord in case anything happen and in case the landlord need to fix something in the apartment for you. And also don't forget about the moving costs, and also if it's an unfurnished properties, you also have to buy the kitchen and also furniture. So do some research to understand how much you will have to pay or buy additionally before you sign that contract. And then you move into the place. So let's now talk about on the monthly basis. First of all, the monthly basis to rent a place, of course, is the rent itself. And interestingly, here in Germany, the rent is composed of 2 parts. First of all is the Kaltmiete, the cold rent. And this means the basic to rent this apartment, the venue. But then you have utility on the monthly basis. You use the water in the winter, you use the heat. So those utility is the Nebenkost, and adding the cold rent and then the Nebenkost together, that becomes your warm rent. And that is exactly the real number that you have to pay your landlord on the monthly basis. And why are they broken down into 2 parts? Because for the cold rent, there is based on the state that every few years the landlord are able to increase a certain amount. And here in Bavaria, every 3 years the landlord can increase up to 15%. And different states will be different. But then in terms of a Nebenkost, the heating for the water, heating for your heater, those are the costs that as the energy price goes up, the landlord will have to take some of those, but then as a tenant, you will be allocated to be responsible to pay them. And that's why the numbers are broken down. And that is all for today's episode. I hope that today's video helped you to get all the knowledge that you need to find that dream home here in the competitive rental market in Munich. And always remember, you can do it! If you like today's episode, please make sure that you click on the like button down below to support this small but energetic and hopefully growing channel. And make sure that you leave me a comment down here to let me know if you have any other questions or topics you want to hear in the next episode. I will see you next time.